morning. Good morning. We are live on Facebook, recording on Zoom so that I can post it to YouTube later on. Hi, Christine. It's good to see you this morning. I am blessed to have my youngest son, Brian, with me, and my husband, Tom, is driving us. I'm in the back seat this morning. Good morning, David. Hi, Montana. Thank you guys for coming on this morning. I don't think we even got any rain here where we live last night. They were predicting major storms. It's a little cloudy and overcast today. Well, I'll tell you what, the reading it never ceases to amaze me, and never ceases to amaze me how these words guide me day by day as I'm attempting each day to wake up and do what God wants me to do. And I know that's what you're doing. So good morning, Eileen. Hugs to you. You're such a blessing, Eileen. You're so faithful. Hi, Debbie. It's always fun to see who all comes on in the mornings. But anyway, it's April the 18th of 2019. It's, as David says, this Holy Thursday, right before Easter Sunday. And, the reason why we read in this Bible is to get the daily nuggets that we need for life. And I kind of was reflecting on the last 9 years as God sent me out away from my government job that had lots of security, lots of benefits, a great retirement plan, and said, go, I send you out like a lamb among wolves. And I thought about how I started this company, and not having a clue what I was doing, never been in this field before. And first couple of years, I had a wonderful man that gave me some guidance. But overall, I just was here in Skiatook, Oklahoma, starting from scratch. And this morning, for some reason, I just as I was reading, I was reflecting back to how much daily guidance I get about what God has called me to do. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Sandy is on with us. Good morning, Sandy. Sandy has just opened up an office for us in Grove. Boy, Sandy, there's good stuff in here every day. I mean, every day it's like, okay, that's just for me today. Hi, Joni. It's good to see you on. Thanks for coming on. But I mean, that's the whole idea of reading a daily Bible is that it gives us what we need. I mean, it's the knowledge that we need to know that we're going forth. So I'm going to attempt to tell you what I read today, because again, we're still in Joshua. We're Joshua chapter 16 and 18, and they are dillying out. I mean, they are allotting the land to the tribes according to the word from Moses, as God had revealed it to Moses, that this tribe gets this parcel of land, this tribe gets that parcel of land. But oh my goodness, I saw things in our life today in these readings. So I wrote out 6 things in my column today that I saw today in today's reading. I guess that's what I want to say. So in today's reading in the Old Testament, that just flows right into the New Testament, 6 things. The first one was order. The second one was family. The third one is compromise. The fourth one was expansive boundaries. The fifth one was fear. The sixth one was hesitation. Now, as I go through this, I want to point these out to you. So God spoke and had promised the Israelites that he would free them from their bondage in Egypt. And he sent Moses, and Moses was the spokesperson for God. And Moses led them out of bondage from Egypt into the wilderness, and then got them to the Jordan, which was the border of the promised land. But it was all based on the promise that I'm going to take you to a land flowing with milk and honey. So the word for them was this promised land. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. God had spoken it. It was in the hearts of every Israelite that they knew that they had a word from God. God has given you a word. He has given you a mission. He has given you a purpose. Every one of us has that. Now, if you're sitting here today and you're listening to me and you're going, well, I don't know what my word is. I don't know what my promise is. I don't know what my mission is. That's exactly why we read. I get the majority of my guiding scriptures every year right here from reading this daily Bible. I don't even know how it happens other than because I'm faithful, God will give me guiding scriptures for each year from this daily Bible reading that I have. He will give you your purpose in life. I've got my purpose in life from this book right here, this Bible that I read. We do a Dream Big retreat twice a year to help women get back in touch with that dream that's in the inside of them. Why did God create me? Why did God pick 1959 for me to be born? Why am I alive right now, April the 18th of 2019? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be accomplishing? The three of us in this car today are going forward. This vehicle is moving forward on the word that God has given each one of us of what we're supposed to accomplish today. And that's the picture of what you're reading about in Joshua chapter 16 through 18, as they are handing out the allotments of the parcel of land to the Israelites. So number one is order. The allotment, this is Joshua chapter 16, verse 1. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph extended from the Jordan River near Jericho. There was an order to the way this happens. There is an order in our life. It's a divine order by God. God first. The greatest commandment of all is for us to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, with all of our souls. And number two is we'll have no other gods before him. There is a divine order for everything we are to accomplish in our lives. And then number two, it's family. So family, chapter 17, verse 1, the next allotment of land was given to the half-tribe of Manasseh, the descendant of Joseph's older son. So Manasseh was Joseph's oldest grandson, and the birth order was important to God. But then let's go down to chapter 17, verse 4. These women came to Eleazar, the priest, Joshua, son of Nun, and the leaders and said, the Lord commanded Moses to give us a grant of land among the men of our tribe. Now, the normal way of doing things is that the allotments of land would have been given to the men according to birth order. But these women came and said that Moses had promised us land, and this was honored, and they went outside of the norm, and they gave these women extra land, which means that so Joshua gave them a grant of land along with their uncles as the Lord had commanded. As a result, Manasseh's total allocation came to 10 parcels of land in addition to the land of Gilead and Bashan across the Jordan River. So it ended up that Manasseh's allotment for his family was more than the others because the women, first of all, had the boldness to come and ask. And second of all, I believe that it was granted because they were family, because they were Manasseh's children. I believe that. Family is important to God. You cannot read through this Bible from front cover to back cover and not see how vitally important family is to God Almighty. And then number three, compromise. The compromise actually started back in verse 10 when they did not drive the Canaanites out of Gezer. And then there's another one in this is going to be chapter 17, verse 13. But they did not drive them out of the land. And then again in chapter 17, verse 18, and you will drive out the Canaanites from the valleys too, even though they are strong and have iron chariots. What we see is that what God showed me is that this handing out of the land, and remember what I said to you yesterday? Yesterday was all about this border was here and the southern border was there, and if you travel from here to there, and what God showed me yesterday was that narrow road that they were on. So the promise of God is a narrow path. It's a narrow road. On each side of it is a ditch. And so as long as we stay on that narrow path, we are reaping the promises of God. I mean, the Bible will literally tell us that the blessings will overtake us when we stay on that narrow path, when we don't turn to the left or to the right, and we stay moving forward on that path. The blessings will overtake us. The blessings, see, are already there. The blessings are on that road, on the journey, but we have to put one foot in front of the other in order to get there. But along the way, there's going to be clumps of weeds. Along the way, there will be boulders on the road. And in order to stay on the road, there may be times we have to stop and pull up the weeds and throw them away. We may have to stop and move the boulder out of the way so we can continue progressing forward. But you know what our human nature will do is we'll jump over the boulder, or we won't take the time to pull the weeds. And compromise is a temptation we will always have. And they compromise because they did not drive out the Canaanites. As I've mentioned, Sandra, I try always on these videos to let everybody know my husband drives for me. I'm in the back seat today, and I love it that people care about my safety and well-being. But my husband drives, my son's in the front with me, and I thank you so much for caring enough to ask. But I do try to be very careful. But anyway, so the compromise is that they didn't drive out the Canaanites. Well, you know what? When we allow a compromise in our life, there are consequences to that. There's always a consequence to that when we allow a compromise. And we're going to talk about that more. So I want you to get this narrow path that we're on, where all of the blessings, all of the provisions for our call and our purpose has already been placed on this path. The Bible tells us that God opens up the treasures of heaven to us. So number 4 are the expansive boundaries. So we continue reading, and we'll read in verse 7, the boundary of the tribe of Manasseh extended from the border of Asher near Shechem. The boundary went south from here to there. And as I was reading today, oh my gosh, there was a lot of land. And as we read yesterday, cities upon cities upon cities that are already established, that the infrastructures was already there. It's not that they went into a barren land. It's not that the promise of God was this barren land with no provision, and it was expansive. The boundaries was massive. I mean, the promises of God are massive in our lives. And then number 5, oh, there we go. I think we're back. Fear set on in, and I read that in chapter 17, verse 16. The descendants of Joseph responded, "It's true that the hill country is not large enough for us, but all the Canaanites in the lowlands have iron chariots, both those in Bethshan and its surrounding settlements, and those in the valley of Israel." And then they made this statement. This is the statement they made. They are too strong for us. That was fear. I love it when my phone falls. Oh, live recordings. The fear set in. They are too strong for us. And how many times do we hear, maybe it's not even that we recognize the voice of God in us. My Bible tells me that all good and perfect gifts are from God. So therefore, if I hear something good, let's say I hear that I'm supposed to put in for a promotion. And I believe I'm supposed to put in for a promotion. If that's a good thing, and if it's really what we're supposed to be doing, I believe that still small voice that told us to do that is God. All good and perfect things come from God. So a promotion that would bring increase to my family, would provide better for my family, allow me to help more people, is definitely a blessing from God. So I believe that would be the voice of God. So we know that we know inside of us we're supposed to do this good thing. And yet we look at it and we think, oh my gosh, but what if I can't learn that? I don't have the level of experience that's necessary, or what if? I mean, we start the what if game, and fear sets in. Oh, but they're too strong for us. They're strong, and they have iron chariots. It said in today's reading. We're on that road, that narrow path, following the purpose that God's given for us, and fear sets in. Well, what if I don't succeed? What if I fail? Well, you know what? If God told you to do it, he's going to fulfill his purpose regardless of what the outcome is. We don't have to fear failure when we're obeying God, but that doesn't mean we don't fear it. I mean, I wish I had a nickel for every time fear rose up in me. I wish I had a nickel for every time fear tried to raise its head up in me in the last 2 weeks. Fear is one of those things that'll try to block our path. And then hesitation, number 6. So chapter 18, verse 3, then Joshua asked them, how long are you going to wait before taking possession of the remaining land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given to you? How long are you going to wait? Well, I'll wait till I get my degree before I do that. Well, I'm going to wait until I've been trained. Oh, well, I'm going to wait. I mean, we all do this. We all do this. And I'm not telling you that we should just, knee-jerk react and just go forward with both barrels. I absolutely believe we should be praying. We should be pausing long enough for us to be able to verify that, yes, indeed, Lord, that's you speaking to me. When he gave me the scriptures for 2019, I can't begin to tell you how many times I prayed about it and said, Lord, are these really my scriptures? Is this really what you're using for my 2019? We want to confirm that what we're hearing is from God, but we don't want to hesitate so long that the blessings pass us by. We don't want to hesitate. When God says go, we need to go. When God says do, we need to do. And if he hasn't said, then we wait. And when in doubt, we don't. When in doubt, because this is the other thing I've learned through the 17 years of reading through this Bible, and then through my tears and my cries and my prayers and my conversations with the Lord is, you know what? He doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. If he's told you to go do this, chances are that's not going to go away. He's not going to change his mind. Now, we can miss opportunities by hesitating. The window can close on us. But anyway, so hesitation was one of the things. Then I love how they came to Joseph and said, the descendants of Joseph responded, it's true that the hill country is not large enough, but all the Canaanites in the lowlands have iron chariots, with those in Bashan and its surrounding settlements, and those in the valley of Jezreel. They're too strong for us. Joshua, they're too strong for us. Why don't you go take care of this for us? And Joshua just told them, you do it yourself, and you will drive them out. Not me, not my armies. No, you go drive them out. And there was a little exchange in here between verses 17 through chapter 18, where they came to him and told Joshua their fears, told him they were afraid because they were too strong for him and they had iron chariots. And Joshua told them the first time, you go drive them out. And they came back and argued, oh no, but they've got iron chariots. And then he just calmly said again, you drive them out. You drive them out. And what he's saying to us through this is do it yourself. It's do it yourself. Do it afraid. Just because they look stronger than, just because it looks like an impossible situation, God's not going to call you to something he's not going to equip you to do. If it's him telling you to do it, he will equip you. And chances are he hasn't already equipped you. It may be very much that he's going to equip you along the journey, that you're going to learn day by day, step by step. His grace is sufficient. His mercies are new every day. And that's how he teaches us. He teaches us just like he rained down manna. He rained down enough manna, that which is symbolic of the word. That's why we read daily. The knowledge we need for today will be gotten through the daily scriptures we read today. It's powerful. And I got so much. I wrote so much this morning. It's not even funny, and I need to move on. I've already taken too much time. So God provided the promise, and he kept his word. People were scared and didn't want to move forward. They didn't want to do the work because they were scared. We have fear that rises up that tries to stop us. So we're on this narrow path, and the path is narrow, as I said. I keep emphasizing that. But the narrow path represents the promises of God. It represents our salvation. It represents our prosperity. It represents our peace. It represents all things good in our life. Everything. It represents living heaven on earth. And yet today in the reading, we get to see how Jesus met Zacchaeus, who was a notorious sinner. He was a notorious sinner. He was a tax collector. He cheated people out of their money. And Jesus met him, and he went to his house to eat. And they criticized Jesus for associating with him. They said that he's gone to be the guest of this notorious sinner. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus, I'm in Luke chapter 19, verse 8. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, this is what Zacchaeus, this rich, notorious sinner, said to Jesus Christ. I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give it back to them 4 times as much. 4 times as much. And this is what where my thoughts went today. On this narrow path, I reached this roadblock. I can see beyond the Jordan, and I see the land flowing with milk and honey, and I see how prosperous it's going to be and how much peace and serenity and calm, and I can see how many people I can help. But you know what? I cheated somebody out of $20 one time, and I didn't go and repay the loan. And I can see it that I just didn't repay dollar for dollar. Here, Zacchaeus was willing to give 4 times as much as what he's stolen back. I mean, how many times have we given somebody our word that, yes, I'll be there, I'll do that? And we don't honor our word. What happens is, it's just like here we are on this narrow path, and I failed to keep my word to somebody, and there's a pebble planted right in front of me that's in my way. I have an old debt that I've not repaid, and there's another pebble in front of me. Oh my gosh, I mean, heaven forbid that I've got somebody in my past I haven't forgiven. And that still small voice has been saying, let it go, forgive them. See, forgiveness does not mean that we condone the behavior. Forgiveness doesn't even mean restoration of relationship oftentimes. Forgiveness means that I release this into the atmosphere of the heavenlies, and I'm going to allow God to take care of that, and I'm going to walk in peace. That's what true forgiveness is. But I just can't forgive that person. You don't understand what they did to me. You don't understand what they did to my children. You don't understand what, and then it's not just a pebble in front of me on my narrow path. It's a great big boulder that I can't jump over, that I can't get past. I mean, it can be all kinds of things. It can be greed. It can be, that inside of you, you're supposed to be given to your church. Some people call it a tithe. You're supposed to be tithing. But, how can I tithe when I don't even have enough money to pay my bills? Or, oh no, I'm saving up, but I really want this new car. Or I've got to have a new out. I mean, we find all kinds of reasons not to give, and I'm talking about the tithe. But let's say that we've gotten that far, that my heart is right enough with the Lord that a tithe is no big deal to me. What if he tells you to give your last $100 in your pocket to that man out on the street corner? Don't think for 1 second God won't have you do that. I've got personal stories about that. We don't give simply because we see somebody. We give when we hear God say give. And it doesn't matter if it's a man on the street corner or if it's the person that lives on the mansion up on the hill. If God says give, we give. But I just say, oh no, I'm saving for something I need. My family needs. Then another great big boulder's in front of us. So fear gets in front of us in the form of boulders. Greed gets in the form of boulders in front of us. Selfishness, self-centeredness, unforgiveness, unwillingness. Oh no, I don't want to drive out the Canaanites. They have iron chariots. See how these tie together? These scriptures each day tie together from the Old Testament to the New Testament reading. Oh no, I don't want to do the work to drive them out. That's too much work. I might have to go to battle if I do that. No. And then we believe lies. We believe the lies that, oh, well, God doesn't speak to me. Oh no, well, God wouldn't tell me to go do that. Oh, well, God wouldn't have me give that person that lives in the mansion up on the hill money. Oh no, that can't be God. We believe lies. And these things becomes this mound of rocks and boulders in front of us on our narrow path that we stop and we get stuck. So today I want to ask you, what is keeping you from moving forward on the narrow path? What is it? And what do we do and how do we get past it? You know, the 3 things I tell you to do, the whole reason why I do these videos is exactly the formula that we need to get past it. Number 1, pray. It's not my job to move that boulder. It's my job to pray and ask Father God to give me the strength and the courage to move that boulder. I pray and then I listen. God, do you want me to move that boulder? If you want me to move that boulder, then you've got to show me how. Father, you want me to forgive that person that did those evil things to me or to my children or to my loved ones? Then you've got to show me how to do that because I don't know what that kind of forgiveness looks like, Lord. You want me to go and apologize? You want me to pay back 4 times what I stole back when I was living a sinful life? You want me? I don't know what that looks like. You got to show me. And if I'm not still, so pray. Be still. Listen. If I don't listen, I won't know what he's telling me. And then we read to confirm the things we're hearing after we've prayed. That's our formula to get back on the right path, to get past those boulders that wants to plant themselves in front of us on this narrow path so that we can move forward in the good and perfect will of God. That's what I got out of today's reading. God bless y'all.